This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. Dr. Grace McLean is sent on leave from Education Ministry. Dr. Grace McLean, the acting permanent secretary in the Ministry of Education, has been sent on leave. Dr. McLean is at the center of a damning report on fiduciary failings surrounding payment of more than $100 million to the Joint Committee on Tertiary Education. Auditor General Pamela Monroe Ellis has called for the police or an anti-corruption agency to conduct a probe following the transfer of $124 million by the Ministry of Education to the JCTE under what it said were questionable circumstances. The Auditor General said the acting permanent secretary and another senior official failed in their fiduciary duty. Earlier this year, questions were also raised about Dr. McLean's role in the oversight of two programs, the Career Advancement Program CAP and the Center of Occupational Studies COS. According to the news, Dr. McLean was responsible for CAP and the COS, which has partnered with the Joint Committee for Tertiary Education. Questions about the award of contracts and conflicts of interest prompted Education Minister Favour Williams to ask the Auditor General's Department to expand its investigation of the ministry to include the programs. Earlier on Wednesday, opposition spokesperson on education, Dr. Angela Brown-Burke, had called for Dr. Grace McLean to step aside while investigations are conducted into the activities which took place under her watch as the Chief Education Officer.
I think where we are right now, the minister needs to act in the interest of the public, and she should remove Dr. McLean from that position, because what we are finding is that her name keeps cropping up, either as an individual with the responsibility or an individual who should have seen or should have done something about a number of issues. This is the same JCTE, by the way, that months before we have been talking about in terms of how they were handling their association with the Western Hospitality Institute and the award of CAP contracts. And it is the same one. And you wonder what has been done since then and today. How long will these investigations take? We have taxpayers' money that should be going to boards and agencies to put it in service of our students and on behalf of the people of Jamaica. And instead of that, in this case, you don't know how to spend. Nobody wants to give account of it. In other cases, it is going to connected parties. You know, this kind of thieving has to stop. And I believe that Jamaica right now is scandal weary.
Firearms seized, several persons detained in Tower Hill operation. The police have so far seized a firearm and detained a number of persons for questioning in a major operation by the security forces along Yaka Avenue in Tower Hill, St. Andrew on Wednesday. According to police sources, the seized firearm is a Ruger 9mm pistol. Several rounds of ammunition was also seized. The operation is aimed at disrupting criminal activities in the St. Andrew South Police Division. 3 campsites for South St. James. The Universal Service Fund will be setting up 3 community access point sites in South St. James shortly. This was disclosed by Minister of State in the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development and a Member of Parliament for the area, Homer Davis, during his recent contribution to the State of the Constituency debate in the House of Representatives. Davis said that the sites will be established in Katudupa, Maroontown, and Mount Carey, and will provide residents, especially students, with the access to Wi-Fi services to participate in online learning. Turning to other initiatives to support education, Davis informed that through the Constituency Development Fund, 12 laptops and 40 tablets were bought and presented to students at a cost of $4.5 million. Additionally, he said that 49 tertiary students were provided with tuition grants at a cost of approximately $2.5 million. We have provided book vouchers for primary and high school students to the tune of $3 million, he noted further. Furthermore, 74 students will be presented with book vouchers and other school supplies, totaling $1.5 million for their outstanding performance in the primary exit profile examinations. Additionally, Davis said that 132 applications were approved through the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information's Own Your Own Device initiative. We received 192 applications from parents and students, of which 132 were approved, processed, and delivered. This was at a cost of $2.6 million. In addition, through the Serve Jamaica Digital Device Program under the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service and the Ministry of Education, we submitted 100 names for support at a cost of $3 million. We are awaiting that delivery, he said. Meanwhile, he told the House that Vistaprint Jamaica will be installing an Internet hub system at the Roehampton Primary School for students, teachers, and the residents of the community. Businessman sues car dealer over failure to deliver vehicle. A suit has been filed by St. Mary businessman Dennis Brown against the St. Mary-based Sings Motors Limited over its alleged failure to deliver a motor car within the specified time. Brown is claiming that his deposit of $1 million should be refunded to him because of the purported breach of contract. Attorney at law Tamika Smith of the law firm Ramsey Smith, who is representing Brown, said today that the suit was filed on September 29 in the Civil Division of the Kingston and the St. Andrew Parish Court. Smith said the defendant was served with the court documents the next day. The case is set for hearing on January 21 next year. Brown states that on July 12 this year, he and the defendant entered into a written contract in relation to a 2015 Probox motor vehicle for $1.2 million. The deposit was $1 million and he paid it by a bank transfer and received a receipt. He said in court documents that the defendant assured him that the delivery of the motor vehicle would be on or about July 15. Several visits and telephone calls between July 15 to September 29 for the defendant to deliver the motor vehicle or refund the money have proved futile. Brown says that because of the alleged breach of contract, he has suffered loss, damage, and distress. He states that he will be relying on documents including the sales agreement, pro forma invoice, receipt dated July 12, letter of demand from Ramsey Smith dated September 15, 2021, and WhatsApp message from Ramsey Smith sent to the defendant on September 27. The claims being sought against the defendant include damages for breach of contract, interest on the judgment sum of $1 million, and legal costs. Residents of Huaton community cower in fear. A series of armed robberies in a Huaton community in St. Catherine has left one resident fearing for her life and that of her daughters. The Prince Lane resident recalled the horrifying evening when 4 masked perpetrators invaded what she used to call home, a presumed safe haven for her family. Looking down the barrel of the invaders' guns has created a feeling of uneasiness, which has resulted in her eyeing other places to relocate. This, she said, may help heal her daughter's trauma. This is not a home anymore, she told the news on Sunday afternoon. On Monday, September 27, at approximately 7:23 p.m., the victim and her daughter had just driven into their yard after returning home from a quick stop down the road. Her daughter, who returned to the gate to close it after driving in, was pounced on by men who rushed onto their property with the intention to steal the vehicle. On the occasion of the incident, the two had left the gate open, as they had done many times before when traveling short distances within the community. According to the mother, this trip was only 7 minutes down the road, but this time the robbers awaited their return. Alisa described how fearful she felt being a woman alone at home, as her husband was at work, especially with one of the shooters holding a gun to her daughter's face. The vehicle consisted of various documents pertaining to her work, her daughter's studies, identification cards, and the monies belonging to her clients. That the incident had perturbed her daughter, who is preparing for Caribbean secondary education certificate exams, is of great concern to her. This is especially so as since the incident, neither of them has felt safe. When it touch evening and it start to get dark, you start to relive the entire incident again. It's not a nice feeling, said the mother, explaining that her daughter has been showing signs of post-traumatic stress disorder, such as heightened levels of anxiety. Breaking down in tears, she is now concerned for her daughter's mental health as she grapples with online studies. She is not sleeping in the night. Things that just happened so fast. Right now she is traumatized, she said. Having not returned to work since the incident, the sales advisor is currently apprehensive to leave her daughter alone at home for online classes. I wouldn't imagine leaving her here because this is not safe. We consider it our home, but we can't say the same anymore. This is nowhere that I want to be, she added. She is now seeking justice for her daughter's sake and also wishes for a sense of safety in the community, which would benefit greatly from an increase in police patrols. The incident was reported to the Yuaton police station, where a statement was taken from her. This is not the first instance of robbery in the neighborhood, according to other residents who informed the news anonymously about an incident in which gunmen robbed an elderly woman of over $500,000 at her under-construction home on Nugent Road. A resident of McGrath Road also shared that she exhibited anxiety after witnessing her cousin being held up at gunpoint at her home. I've lived here all my life and that's something that has never happened before, she exclaimed. However, according to Superintendent Howard Chambers, the commanding officer for St. Catherine North, there has been no other incident of this nature that has been reported to the police. He described the crime as a one-off incident, adding that the neighborhood is generally relatively calm and that no criminal trend has been observed. He added that the armed robbery of the vehicle is under investigation. Government to launch $1 billion care package drive. The government is to embark on a massive social intervention program aimed at getting food into the homes of some of the most vulnerable Jamaicans who continue to be impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. The total cost of the program will be $1 billion. This was revealed on Tuesday by Finance and the Public Service Minister, Dr. Nigel Clark, in the House of Representatives. He was presenting and leading the debate on the report of the Standing Finance Committee, which approved the first supplementary estimates, which saw more than $33 billion being added to the national budget. Clark said some non-state institutions, such as the church, are to be engaged as part of what he labeled a $1 billion care package food drive. This is planned to involve the food baskets being distributed by the government through various ministries in partnership with parliamentarians and councillors, churches, non-governmental organizations, and the private sector. Clark described the initiative as a food drive that certainly I have not seen in any time. He said that while the final number is still being worked on, up to 250,000 vulnerable Jamaicans stand to benefit from the initiative. Lawyers appeal in court ruling against dreadlocked Kensington primary student. Attorneys representing the family of the Kensington primary student who was denied access to the school in 2018 because of her dreadlocked hairstyle are challenging the full court's ruling that the child's constitutional rights were not breached. The hearing began in the Court of Appeal on Wednesday morning. Queen's Counsel Michael Hilton argued that the Supreme Court erred in ruling that the child's religious rights were not breached. Mr. Hilton said the court, in accepting that the child's locks were an expression of her Nazarite beliefs, should have found that her religious rights were breached. The case sparked a public outrage on perceived systemic prejudices against the Rastafarian culture and Afrocentric hairstyles. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.